Hello, everyone. Welcome to this episode of SBJ Live. I am Dan Kaufman, Managing Director of Sports Technology at Sports Business Journal, and I thank you very much for being here today. We've got a fantastic group of experts to chat with, and I will get to them momentarily, I promise. But first, just some very, very basic logistics. If this is the first time that you are joining us for a webinar, thank you so much for being here. If it's not the first time, thank you for coming back. There are a few things I really want to stress for these episodes of SBJ Live. And the main thing really is we want your interaction and your engagement. Don't think of this as a passive experience. We want the audience to be here interacting with our speakers, asking questions and introducing themselves. And the way that you do that is you can go to the chat bubble on the right-hand side and tell us where you are and where you're coming from and who you are and what you do. And if you see other people who you know introducing themselves in the chat, feel free to say hello to them as well. We really encourage that, and we hope you'll take advantage of it. And then there's a questions tab right next to the chat tab. Make sure you give us your questions. Joe Lemire, our fantastic moderator, is going to be looking at those questions as they come in, and he will weave them in throughout the conversation today. Don't wait till the end. There is no specific Q&A portion of this. The questions are weaved in throughout. And you can also upvote questions. So if you see questions in the questions tab that you like, upvote the questions, and I'm sure Joe will do his best to get to those that have the most votes. As I said, this is SBJ Live. We are hoping to produce about 2 of these every month, beginning now and heading into the spring and the summer. So pay attention for more episodes down the line on different subjects, and we hope you'll join us for those as well. But this episode is a baseball-focused episode, as you all know, and I want to give one plug before I turn it over to our panelists. We have Commissioner Rob Manfred, MLB Commissioner Rob Manfred, on stage at World Congress. That's the CAA World Congress of Sports, April 18th in Los Angeles. Rob will take the stage in conversation with Peter Guber of Mandalay Entertainment Group and Dan Beckerman of AEG. They're both also happen to be professors at UCLA, and they are going to interview Rob in a 2-on-1 format. So if you didn't get enough baseball from this conversation, make sure you check out World Congress of Sports in mid-April in Los Angeles, and we will drop a link in the chat here for people to take some time to look at that and explore it a little bit further. All right, I am going to turn it over to our moderator, Joe Lemire, and our fantastic group of panelists. This is Major League Tech, the most important innovations ahead of baseball's opening day. We have Chris Alphin. He is the Executive Vice President of Property Consultant at Elevate Sports Ventures. Justin Watkins is the Vice President of Business Strategy at the Atlanta Braves. Vasanth Williams is the Chief Product Officer and Executive Vice President at Major League Baseball. And last but not least, we have Carrie Zaremba. She is the SVP of Product, Ballpark Experience, and Ticketing at Major League Baseball. Joe, the floor is yours. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you, Dan, for the kind introduction. Thanks to all of our panelists for being here. 24 hours from opening day. Let's get into it. So obviously, the baseball operations has been worried about the on-field product and free agency and trades, and there's been a lot going into that, but certainly on the business side, everyone's been just as busy kind of rethinking products, rethinking strategies. And so this might be a good time to sort of go around the horn. I will try to work in as many obvious baseball puns as possible. And what has been sort of like the signature thing that you've been working on over the past few months to get ready for this year? And we'll kick it off with Vasanth, because certainly MLB has refreshed its app in a major way, and I know that's been your pet project.
Yeah. So, well, one, thanks for having me, and yeah, this year is going to be pretty exciting for us. We have, as you mentioned, the MLB app is getting a huge refresh for us, right? It's one of our price flagship product, and this year it's getting a complete overhaul. So, it is for us. It is we want it to be the number one baseball content for fans, right? So the one of the things we're really focusing on this year is how could we provide a really personalized experience for our fans, whether it's through the teams or to the favorite players that they're following, and give them a more live experience. And hopefully we achieve that with the release this year. A lot of changes that's coming up in that with MLB app. So one is we have something called a home tab, which we're introducing for our fans. It's a huge in terms of you instantly get live up to the minute information about your team, about your favorite player. Did they hit a home run, or how did the at bat go last night? Right in the app, right in front of you within a second, right? So, and also we're investing quite a bit on a watch experience, the live baseball experience itself. We have a new watch tab, which is, if you think about it, this is a tab that is very much going to look similar to a Netflix or a Hulu app, right? So where you have a hero carousel, which is personalized to you, a hero tile that's personalized to you, and then you have a bunch of carousels that shows the latest and greatest that's happening in the season right now, right? So we also have a lot of contents coming out with the watch tab. We have a live show called a Big Inning, which is a whip around show around the league that's happening every day. We'll be broadcasting that. So huge amount of innovation. Another big one is live notification. If you're an iOS developer, iOS phone, you have a phone, you should be able to see your scores in your lock screen, and also in the dynamic island that you see on top when you are using the different app, you'll be able to see the scores progressing live for you. So those are some of the big innovations. There are a lot more to come. Like, and I can speak some more to it, but I'm super excited by it. It is a big foray into helping fans consume baseball in the format that they want. This is actually important for our younger generation of fans as well. Actually, there's another new interesting feature and functionality is what we call the stories. Stories is most of you have seen with it's similar to Instagram or Snapchat. You're able to watch this vertical format at the pace that you want, right? So we'll be having game content as well as a pre-game view of what's going to happen, the matchups, all of that in a stories format, which hopefully it's been hugely successful. We test this out. It's not something we're throwing it out and hoping it'll stick. It's something we tested out through last year, and we'll see that as a core part of our media in a home tab for us for the fans. So a lot of exciting stuff, a lot more to come. But that, if I have to pick one thing that I'm super excited, but how it's for the season, that's going to be one big innovation from our league.
Absolutely. I wonder how you even slept with all those changes. Carrie, over to you and the Ballpark app. What's new there?
The Ballpark app, we're really excited about our new partnership with SeatGeek, which is our exclusive fan-to-fan marketplace. And from a technology perspective, for the first time, fans will have an ability to list their tickets for resale on SeatGeek directly from the Ballpark app. So that's a brand new feature that hasn't been there before. And SeatGeek is really part of a larger MLB ticketing strategy, wherein we are devising a network of authorized ticketing marketplaces, which poses a number of really exciting opportunities, both for fans and for the league. So from the MLB's perspective, we're in a really unique position technologically in that we own and operate our own ticketing system in tickets.com. And that affords us an opportunity to integrate and interoperate with secondary marketplaces in a way that allows us to create a much more cohesive end-to-end fan experience. And for fans, what they'll be able to have at their disposal is more options in terms of being able to securely and confidently buy tickets, list and sell tickets, sharing tickets, as well as using tickets across marketplaces. And obviously for the league, this bodes well because more distribution means more tickets in the hands of more fans, which is obviously good for baseball. Another thing that fans will be able to see from our technology is that we'll be able to create a lot of consistency across the industry in terms of the look and feel of tickets. And so that should give fans a lot more confidence that they are in fact dealing with a legitimate ticket. And from a baseball perspective, it affords our gate attendants more consistency in terms of the tickets that they're taking at the gates, which ultimately should lead to a more expedited ingress experience. So very excited. It's a very ambitious, broad-ranging initiative that we're undertaking. And so excited as it evolves over the course of this season.
It's actually a quick interlude now. SBJ Atlas is our market research engine and sponsorship prospecting group, and they have some slides they prepared. This is running for the first time, the full list of Major League Baseball sponsors for the year. If we can cue that up. So we have 6 new sponsors, SeatGeek obviously very prominent among those. And then as far as the entire group, more than a third of all MLB official sponsors have been with the league for one season or less. So we're showing some real influx in that space. We can shoot over to the second slide. And we can perhaps leave that up there for a moment, but we'll continue the conversation with Justin. As you said, just before we went live, as we were in our little digital backstage, he said, winning the World Series can certainly, I'll paraphrase here, but certainly lift all boats here. Certainly you're now a second year removed from that, but still a highly competitive team. How are you continuing to capitalize on that success?
Yeah, Joe, thanks for that. Yes. Win the World Series can certainly make you look smart. I think we've been in a very lucky position. So for us, the Atlanta area has added about 800,000 people in the past 12 years. Where we moved our ballpark was right where people were moving. Hugely advantageous. Our development with the battery, it's been tremendously successful. We won the World Series during that time. Of course, the foundations of that World Series were put in place years before. So we had this confluence of things that really helped us kind of achieve the success that we've had over the past several years. So for us now, we didn't have to rush to kind of build this ballpark. There's 2 parts to it. One, everything Kerry Massant said, we get to piggyback off of. So we have this bifurcated kind of tech strategy, which is really nice. And I know I explained to you, Kerry wasn't there, but Massant heard it. I look at those guys as my mini Steve Jobs. They're ruthlessly focused on that digital product, and I don't have to be because we're really not resourced to be. They don't do it in this autocratic way. They do it in this very collaborative way, which is positive. And we've seen, just an amazing product in the new MLB app. If anybody on here hasn't checked it out, please check it out. It's amazing the direction we went with it. So for us, they handle that part of it collaboratively. Of course, since we did have to rush to build the ballpark, we are in the midst of a master planning exercise, which is really interesting. So we get to reimagine things like ingress, like Kerry talked about, and we get to have some say in it with her, which is awesome. Ingress, egress, we get to look at how concessions are positioned across the ballpark, things like just walk out technology, reimagine how kind of belly up concessions work, all things that kind of improve the direct consumer experience. So not only do we have a really, really dramatically improved digital experience, we allows us to focus on the product as consumers feel it directly. So that's been a major focus of us over the off season.
Great. And Chris, in your work consulting with clubs, what have been some of the key takeaways, key trends?
It's just using that ballpark as a central character in the game experience and making sure that our clients are taking full advantage of what their ballparks can do. And some are major changes like Justin and the Braves are undertaking. Some are small tweaks, but ensuring that the entire revenue opportunity is maximized for these clubs. And the ballpark is such a central feature of the experience of the game, of why people like to come out.
And Vasant, I know a key word that the league has been touting quite a bit recently is personalization. How do you make, you touched on it a little bit, but maybe go a little more in depth as to how you're making sure that your products, work for each fan the way that he or she wants them to.
Absolutely. So one of the things that we actually did as a foundation over the last few years is to be able to really understand the fans, right? So we need to understand who they are, what they've been up to with baseball, and what's their relationship with baseball. So we built this, what we call the fan data platform, which we built for the last couple of years or even longer, and be able to use that information to provide the right personalization, right? So, this is something Kerry and the team had been working on, is how do you identify the fans, right? We can have better engagement with the fans once we identify them, right? So then the next step is like, what experience do we want to provide them for those fans, right? So on the MLB app, it'll be pretty self-evident. Like some of the experience, the home tab home screen that you see is actually going to be very different from every fan. Like, because it depends. You might be a fan of Shohei Ohtani, but you're a Yankees fan as well. So and someone who's a Padres fan is actually wants to follow Aaron Judge. So you experience the video clips that you're going to see, the news and the information that you're going to get is going to be very different for that. And you like more home runs, and you like to see more stolen bases. Those are information that we'll gather based on your behavior and be able to provide you with a much more richer content as well. And depending and as we go further along the road, you think about the sophistication of the fan itself, right? So what kind of metrics you'd like to understand and get and use, right? Should we use just probability for this fan to be able to look what is the probability after the strikeout for this team to win, right? So is that something interesting? We're offering that now in a game day. So we really, peeling that onion of personalization is what we're at right now. And then another interesting thing that we're actually launching this year with our .tv connected devices, right? So when you're a .tv, MLB.tv subscriber, we want you to watch the game in a way you want to watch the game. Not a one size fits all. We're introducing what we call a game day mode. It's on the connected devices only because that's the experience when you lean back and have a big screen. You're able to overlay interesting data for you. Game day mode allows you to. It's very similar to the game day live representation that we have on the apps and on the web, but in your connected device, that's really synced up to the game itself, right? So you're able to see what happened in the last 4 pitches. Like, how's this matchup between the pitcher and the hitter going? So that's a very in-depth view data overlay that a fan never had before, right? Rather than what you typically just get from broadcast. This is something that if you're a fan that likes to follow that, you'll be able to turn that on. And if you go down the future, you can think about it. Okay, I like to bet. I'm a sports bettor. I like to have different set of information as I watch the game. So can you provide those data overlays? So that's the level of personalization. 2 ways. One, allowing the fans themselves to opt into those kind of experiences for themselves, and 2, use the information that we have about the data that we collected about them to provide them the right level of personalization for that. So that's, those are some of the things that we're actually pretty excited by, and the path we are going down, and you'll see that in a lot of our products across our portfolio of digital products.
Mm-hmm. And Carrie, obviously, Vasant just mentioned some of the work that the Ballpark app has done in collecting that information. How have digital tickets kind of help fuel that? And
we've been working on this for a couple of years now, especially with regards to making the home screen contextually aware. And a big part of that is the personal dimension of who the user is. And so that may be based upon things like their tickets on their account. It could be based upon favorite team, and certainly based on location and, if they're going to a game or are they at home planning for a game. So one of the things that we're doing this season to build upon that contextually aware framework is we are leaning in more on personalization. And so in conjunction with the Mets, we're running a pilot this year that will create a personalized welcome message when someone enters Citi Field. So it will welcome them by name and then recommend some things they might want to check out at the ballpark when they're at the game. So this will really provide a very powerful foundation for us to be able to continue to build upon. And again, making the Ballpark app highly personalized and relevant for fans based upon their context.
Mm-hmm. Can you tell the other fans not to go to Shake Shack because the line is sometimes too long for me? So you just clear them out. So Justin, when we spoke last summer for a story, and I think one of the key takeaways was just how much younger the average fan is that entering Truist Park than I think a lot of people realize. Yeah, how do you try to cater the game experience for them and personalize it and make sure that everyone gets the experience they want?
Yeah, that's also a great question. We have seemed to have been getting younger. I know that a lot of clubs get to employ technologies like fan cam that come out there and look at everyone, so they pull back the age of people as opposed to just looking at ticket buyers and seeing what their ages are. A lot of that work gets done at the league for us. In terms of looking at the what the game day experience should be, it's a really interesting question and philosophy. If you go to a Chicago Cubs games, for instance, the way their game day experience work is completely different than ours. You won't even see their mascot in the park during a game, which is cool. It's almost a somber experience. For us, we're very active during the game. Joe, I don't know if you've been to a game down here or not, but we have stuff between every inning. We try a lot of different things. Obviously, we have sponsor spots. I think the app, once again, I'm going to lean on it. The way that app allows people to interact with the game is going to be so dramatically different that it kind of enables that for us. You'll have the option to experience the game the way you want to experience it. Vasant talked about sports betting. Whether or not young people are going to be able to do that, we're not going to be able to do it in Georgia here for a couple of years, it looks like. So we won't be able to do that. But having all that information at your fingertips really allows you to do that. So you have this augmented experience with the app that you just did not have before. You compare that to what people might expect when they come to a ball game, whether they're younger or older. I think we get to dictate that a little bit. I think it's hard for me to say. I've been to probably 15 or 16 ballparks and kind of went through watching games. For me, the game day experience, it's obviously a very intrinsic and important part of the experience, but it's really hard to quantify. If you think about the difficulty with trying to determine what your return on marketing spend is holistically, the game day experience is the same thing. I think it speaks to your brand and what your brand is. And I think there's some interesting spots that allow us to kind of take advantage of some interesting earned media. I think here a couple of years ago, we had one of the best in-park spots that I've seen with Beat the Freeze. Incredibly entertaining. But, for us, we have high marks on it when you ask people about it. I'm sure the Cubs have high marks on it. The app, I think, is really where we're going to allow people to tell us how they want to experience the game. It's going to allow us to collect more data on them and really personalize it. So that's what I'm most excited about.
Mm-hmm. Over to Chris.
Yeah, listen, that experience that the Cubs are delivering, those fans are in Atlanta too, right? And there's fans that we don't even know about or are coming to the game just to spend time with friends. And our job, I think, is to ensure that we can meet the needs of all those fans inside every single ballpark. And we're seeing incredible diversity of product. When I was a kid going to A's games, you could sit in the lower level or you could sit in the upper level. If I go to a game at Truist Park, I've got something like 26 different options today. And we're meeting people that are out there entertaining for business. We're meeting fans. One day, a guy wants to go with his family and have a peaceful experience. Next day, he wants to be with his buddies at the top of the chop and really getting into it. The ballpark gives us all these opportunities, and teams need to constantly look and reinvent, knowing their fans and ensuring that the incredible product that MLB is creating for broadcast viewers doesn't get so good that being there isn't as good as watching at home. So incredible responsibility and a big opportunity.
Mm-hmm. And one of the other major areas of change for Major League Baseball, obviously, are the number of rule changes. So I want everyone's thoughts on bases that are 3 inches larger. No, I'm just kidding. Obviously, the one that's going to have the biggest impact on everything you do is the pitch clock. The pace of the game is going to be going faster. The length of the game is going to be a bit shorter. What that could affect some brand exposure time. It could affect how concessions are sold. A lot of different ways of looking at it. Maybe we'll go reverse order around this time. Chris, starting with you, how do you see the rule changes playing out? With the attention in the ballpark and how brands might need to think about it.
I'm a huge fan. I think that these are unpopular amongst AM radio show callers. Everybody else is going to like this. It's going to create a more exciting game, which is going to create a bigger opportunity for sponsors to get engaged with younger fans, changing fans, which is going to help grow the game. So I'm all in favor. I hope they keep trying new things.
Mm-hmm. Justin?
I'm also incredibly in favor of these. These things are a long time coming. And when you look at companies or something as kind of traditionally focused as Major League Baseball, the systems they put in place are incredibly durable. And, you're talking about something that's been around for 150 years plus. It's really hard to make changes to that. And I think baseball has done a really good job of being progressive there and making sure the changes are smart and they improve the game experience. When you look at product itself, that the game is really the product. If we're a media company, which are a content creation company, which Major League Baseball is, these changes really make a positive impact. And I'm a purist. I'm an absolute purist with how baseball should be played. I love some of the other changes, like the shift. I hated the shift. The shift to me, which is interesting, you can move people around and get some sort of competitive advantage. I think it helps stabilize the game, taking some of that away, which it'll be really interesting to see how the others kind of perceive it. I think for the most part, people are going to like it. Some of the other questions for me, and I'm obviously on the revenue side, shorter games leading to less revenue. I think we're going to make more revenue overall because of this, even with concessions, which is really interesting. You only see about 2 to 3% of transactions after the 8th inning anyway, and people buy in the same cadence. There's really not even a correlation between the number of transactions and the length of the game. People buy at the same times no matter what. So I think some of the exposure there might be overblown from what I've seen. Overall, I think every one of these rule changes has been a positive. And to echo Chris, I hope they go further. I want to see more out of this. I think it's really important to our younger fans, and I think older fans that get used to a specific product. I think the game's going to look more maybe what it looked like 50 years ago in terms of game times and the way they play the game. And I think that's going to be a really positive thing.
Mm-hmm. Carrie?
Yeah, from the Ballpark app's perspective, we want to make sure that people are prepared when they're going to a game. They know what to expect. So whether you are a returning fan and you're trying to understand what's going to be different in terms of action on the field, or if you're brand new to the game, we're incorporating something that Vasant mentioned earlier with tap stories and pulling those into the Ballpark app so people can consume what those changes mean for the game in their own time at their own pace. And we think that there's a ton of excitement going into what these rule changes are going to mean, and are really excited to showcase that through the Ballpark app as well.
Mm-hmm. Anything, Ted?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with what everyone said. Like, it's been hugely positive so far for us. Like, all this data we have from spring training, and when we compare it to the previous years, and it's been hugely, both from a fan feedback perspective, it's been hugely positive, as well as from all the numbers we're seeing. It's actually been really good. And keep in mind, this is not which suddenly came to major leagues. So we have actually, this has been in the minor leagues for a while. So we have enough information and data about how this affects, and it actually all of that is points positive for us. So that's actually, I'm actually super excited by it. And from our end, from a technology point of view, all we are focused on the digital point of view is to continue to educate our fans about the rule changes. And you'll see from on a marketing perspective, you'll see a lot of 30-second ads being taken out to educate it. That's coming out in the next, that came out yesterday and day before, as well as you'll see that in the apps, both in the Ballpark app as well as the MLB app, for fans to be educated about these rule changes. But initially, in the initial reaction, has overwhelmingly been positive for us, which makes it very exciting. I mean, I for one love the rule changes, but it's good to see even all the traditionalists and also agree on this one.
Yeah, I can't recommend the Vogelback Showalter ad about the stealing bases enough.
Yeah, that was a good one.
We're starting to get quite a few questions coming in. Might as well start going out to our audience. When do you think we will see experiences like Amazon's Just Walk Out stores in every ballpark? I know there are a few other vendors that are doing something similar as well. Who on the panel has some insight as to the proliferation of those?
Me, I can take that. I'm sure Chris can as well. You're going to see these things proliferate everywhere in every ballpark. When you Just Walk Out's one version of it. Obviously, there's other companies that are doing kind of very similar things. When you look at something like a concessions process, the typical belly up one that's been around for forever, you have an ordering, you have a payment, and then you have a fulfillment process. You're making all these things kind of asynchronous, which makes them as fast as possible. I think it's going to be the best way to increase throughput to the ballpark. It's going to be the best way to reduce pressure on concourses. It's going to completely change the way new parks and arenas are constructed. I think you're going to see at some point, there'll be a tipping point where the majority of locations in park represent one of these type of grab and go or market concepts where you go and get what you want and go pay for it asynchronously. If you go to Europe right now, everywhere you go, I was in Europe this past year. If you go anywhere, everything's self-checkout as well. If people have been to Home Depot or anything else, self-checkout, it's everywhere. Getting that technology component right, beginning to integrate that into the application where you do have personalization there leads to other opportunities. I think this is going to massively proliferate, and within 10 years, you're going to see it tip over where that's the majority of what you see in parks.
Look, if you told us 5 years ago that you wouldn't be able to use cash in ballparks, nobody would have believed you. and now it's just accepted. So I couldn't agree more with Justin. I think it's probably end of next season.
Yeah, from my perspective, we work in close collaboration with clubs. And so there are a number of clubs that are already deployed with this type of technology that are trialing it, to Justin's point, with different vendors. And so we tend to look at this, in conjunction with clubs to be able to come up with scalable solutions for the league. So we're really excited to continue those explorations. And yeah, it's a trend that's only accelerating.
Mm-hmm. We've got a question about augmented reality, and what is the future of augmented reality within the game day experience at the ballpark?
Yeah, I mean, look, there's different things where we've been trying out a lot of things when it comes to augmented reality in sports, and sports is a great place to have augmented reality. And we've I don't know whether people have checked out our home run derby augmented reality app that we launched, and actually I think it won the Sports Emmy Award as well for innovation. So it's a pretty we'll as an organization, we'll be pushing along this realm, along with the whole metaverse concept, right? So if you take a step back and look at some of the functionality and features we're releasing with field vision, which is 3D visualization of the game itself. For those of you who don't know, we actually track 29 skeletal points on a player at 30 to 60 frames per second. So that allows us, and every pitch and every bat swing, we are tracking it. So we are able to recreate the entire game in a 3D visualized format and allow people to immerse themselves into that world, right? So those are the steps that we're. Is it there yet? Definitely not, but the path is very clear that the virtual and the physical world at some point is going to merge together to provide a more immersive experience for fans. And I hope people can check out this year's our Field Vision product, which is a huge improvement from last year's. Which we'll be launching for opening day as well, which you'll be able to see replays of plays and put yourself in a position that no broadcast can ever cover. And same thing, we'll be doing a live version of that for subscribers, as well as the free game of the day product. So those are our foray into both the augmented reality as well as metaverse that I think is going to be exciting in the next few years. I mean, as the processor cost and speed, as everything is improving, this is going to be a reality. It's something I'm sure you've heard of Oculus and Apple's investment in this area, and the constraint is more on the hardware side and how meaningful that of an experience you can provide, and less on the software side of things. So from a software side, we are well prepared to be leaders in the space. So.
Mm-hmm. Great. And we had another question that's got a number of upvotes. I think probably more in your purview than anyone else, Vasant. But considering the issues around regional sports networks and MLB's apparent readiness to step in and support broadcasts themselves if necessary, does that affect the propensity or willingness of the league to then explore innovations in the stream or broadcast?
So, from a technology perspective, I can answer it. Yes, we are going to be ready no matter what, right? As the commissioner said, that our goal is to be ready to make sure we are ready for our fans when any eventuality happens. With that said, our innovation is independent of that. The innovation in streaming, we have been a market leader in sports streaming for the last 20 years. In fact, I think we celebrated the 20th anniversary last year. And we're going to continue to do that. You'll see that even with our automatic market product this year, we'll see that innovation. And look, from a technology point of view, our goal is to be ready no matter what happens for our fans. So that's what we've done, and we have the whole team ready to go whenever we're required to step in. So.
Mm-hmm. Great. The next topic I want to get a few different viewpoints on is the sort of the stadium experience, particularly the entry, whether it's ticketing, it's security, it's getting everybody in. This also sort of ties into one of the other audience questions about facial recognition. I know a few clubs have piloted programs where you can use facial recognition for tickets. Where are the key innovations there, and what should fans know for 2023? Maybe start with Gary.
Yeah, we've been piloting these types of solutions for the last couple of years and working in conjunction with testing different facial authentication vendors, and also working in close collaboration with clubs around designing an end-to-end ingress experience, which constitutes everything from free flow security scanning to actually ripping the ticket for entry. And so we're really excited about how far this has come. The Mets have had this solution for the last couple of seasons, and so they're deploying this more broadly. And so we're working in very close conjunction with them and watching their deployment as well. But I think that it's still something that's in the works, and we're working to make sure that we have a scalable solution before rolling it out any more broadly than that. So more to come later on this season.
Point also about the barcode on tickets. What can you tell us about that this year?
Yeah, so we have rolled out rotational barcodes in the Ballpark app. And so this really has a lot of inbuilt fraud protection and an extra layer of security, which adds more protection for fans. So what fans will see is the barcode is actually updating or rotating every few seconds. They'll also see animated baseballs up and down the flanks of the ticket face. And again, this is just another way of making sure that they have confidence and that they have ultimate ownership and control over that ticket and how it's used.
Joe, it's interesting you just asked here about ingress and egress. And I've talked to Carrie about this, ad nauseum. We've had multiple discussions on it. If you go back a couple of thousand years and you look at the Colosseum of Rome, it had 79 vomitoria in it. And it just spilled out in all directions. They didn't have to worry about HVAC. They didn't have OSHA, or they didn't have anything to worry about. Fire marshals, they just, how do we get people in there as fast as possible? They built almost a perfect circle. Entrances and exits all the way around. I bet those places functioned. I bet the Roman Coliseum functioned better than ballparks do today, where we have about 5 or 6 points of entry, where we're literally having to build technology that reads people's faces to try to approach something that they probably solved a long time ago. So we know whatever we do, it's always going to be suboptimal, because that's probably the best way to do it. People didn't have to park. They just walked from their house, densely populated, right into one of the 79 entrances. So I think it's fascinating how far we've come. We're using space age technology to probably do something worse, no matter what, than a design that's 2,000 years old. But I love it. I love that we're able to do it. And Carrie's made some good headway there.
I wish I could have sold the Emperor's Club Premium at the Coliseum. Justin.
Yeah, exactly.
Get a guy who's ATP on that.
Yeah, probably not. Carrie also, she went to the point where she had an industrial designer up there looking at some of this stuff, which is really cool. It's a difficult problem. It really is. And it's interesting how fast that's beginning to proliferate as well.
We're at Elevate. We're advising our clients that the experience starts when a fan leaves their house, right? So you're responsible for the traffic. You're responsible for everything getting there. A lot of fan surveys are coming back with negativity around egress, feeling safe when you're leaving, particularly big events late in the season when they're very highly attended. So teams have to think that through completely. So options to stay longer, suite levels, club levels that stay out later, reopening concessions, things like that. Restaurants, those are all working and part of the experience.
Mm-hmm. It was interesting. The New England Patriots are now paying some fans to stay. I think it's like a minimum of, as long as you commit to like 90 minutes after the game, you get a huge discount on your tickets or free parking or whatever the exact details are. But it helps space out everything. And that, as someone who grew up in Massachusetts, I can tell you that the Foxborough experience is among the worst in all of professional sports.
Those buffering strategies are real. That's good. The battery did that for us for a little bit. And we also had the distributing parking system. So at our old ballpark, we had parking that just surrounded, much like the Dodgers do now. It just surrounded the ballpark. Traffic was miserable. Distributing it's really helped. So those buffering technologies, it's not even a technology, it's an industrial engineering concept. Those things really, really have a measured effect on the outcome in terms of the fan experience. Mm-hmm. That's great.
Yeah. And so how soon are we from, say I'm in line at gate 4 and it's really long, but I don't realize that around the corner at gate 2 is really short. How long until I get a notification saying, oh, wait, hey, you should walk 100 feet that way and you'll get in much faster?
You'll get it from us from a guy with a sign immediately. Just, hold your head up. But Carrie might can answer what you're talking about.
Yeah, we have the data regarding ingress speeds, and we've done a number of research studies about how fans would like to receive and interact with that information. We went in with an hypothesis that said that we would recommend what gate they should enter based upon their location and where their seat is. But it turned out that fans wanted a lot more control and to decide for themselves. So they just wanted the information displayed that they could validate which one they wanted to go into. So we know a lot about how fans would like to have that information presented. So definitely more to come there.
There's consumer behavior there. So if I'm standing there, I don't know if I'm going to believe someone telling me to go somewhere else. Maybe they're lying, and now I'm losing my place in line to go to a longer line. Same concept with concessions. It happens the same way. And we're experiencing that as we go through this master planning project. If you're looking at the side of the concourse, if somebody's standing in line for a concession stand, there's one, say, 50 yards away that's empty. If you direct them there, do you think they're going to go? Or would they rather stand there in line? I think what we've found just anecdotally from talking to people don't want to get out of line once they're there. It's one of those durable things that's hammered into our psychology. You got your spot in line, you better keep it. It's not going to be better over there. That person's lying to me. Carrie's lying to me. I'm staying right here and I'm walking through that gate. So it's a difficult problem.
Yeah, there's games there. I brought my 6-year-old son to his first hockey game recently. I won't mention the venue just because the concession lines were particularly long that day. And like, at least at that point, I could look up on my phone, like, oh, my son really wanted popcorn. It's all he wanted. So I could look at my phone, and at least, there was information like these are the 6 places on that concourse that sold popcorn. But so I tried to go against what Justin is saying. And I tried to line hop, and I felt like every time I got there, I was just like too late. It was a little too late in the experience. And so I understand why people might stay. So it goes. Enough about my problems. We got a question coming in here. How does MLB think about generative AI, and where does this technology play, lighting up brand new fan experiences? Who wants to go first?
Yeah, I mean, for sure. Like generative AI is definitely the talk of the town. I mean, everywhere you look, there's a generative AI product being released. So from an MLB point of view, the way I think about it is in two folds, right? One is, how do we use generative AI to improve the fan experience itself, right? So what if you think about, look, what a generative AI allows you to do is have a more hyper-personalized experience. In this path to personalization, still, right? So it is still, Joe, you're actually part of this segment, so we can give you this particular. We know you like this fan. I know you like this team, but with generative AI, it's a lot more than that. It allows you to have a long, meaningful conversation or meaningful message that is very tailored to you, not just to people like Joe and people like Joe, right? So it allows for that deep personalized experience, whether it's through marketing messages or through the offers and the different products that we offer for them, right? So that's and there's a whole plethora of use cases that we are thinking about it. And there's another piece to it, which is all about efficiency and for the product development itself. So whether if you're a designer, what kind of creative designs can you come up with, and how fast can you come up with, right? So, and if you're a software developer, how fast can you develop this particular functionality for the fan, right? So there's two separate aspects of generative AI that we're really looking at, and frankly, look. We know it's going to be very transformative in the next 3 to 5 years, right? So, but the question now is, what can we experience and a meaningful feature or functionality that we provide in the next 3 to 6 months or in a year from now that is meaningful for a fan? Now, just look, this is a cool tool that we have. So the good news is, look, we're working with a lot of our close partners we have who have this product, like Google with their Bard release that we are working with them. We're working with internally as well to really think about what is the next meaningful experience that we can provide using generative AI. So again, we think about it in two separate ways of approaching it, but you'll see a lot of it coming out of us in the next, I would say, in the next 6 months to a year, early on, and also beyond that. So again, this is very transformative, but it's also in very early stage. So.
From the club perspective, it's a little different, but obviously it kind of dovetails into that. I think in terms of creating content, we're content companies at heart, and the ability to create content at scale is really kind of cool. It's important. The other side of it is a lot of these technologies that do this are already being deployed at scale. So if you look at companies like Conversica, really interesting, or Saleswell, they enable you to reach your entire database. When you use that in conjunction with the consumer data platform that Carrie's constructed with your internal CRM, it makes for a really powerful MarTech stack. And it's really cool. And that stuff's getting deployed now. You can even layer it on top of it. I was at a conference here this March, and Chase Carpenter at the Cubs, he may or may not be on this call. I hope he's not. Not because of good content, I just don't like him very much. But he had a really interesting product called Persado he was using that allowed you to A/B test different messages to people. And they were deploying that actively, and they were getting a return on their investment. Really cool. But they were hitting their entire database. They're using these tools in really, really interesting ways. And I think what's going to happen there, you're going to see the way sales and marketing teams have traditionally been constructed in sports. You're going to see them start changing. And AI is not going to take your job, but the person that knows how to use AI is going to take your job if you're in certain positions. And we're already seeing, I think, the nascent stages of that now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, one of the other use cases that we're potentially looking into, this gets back to the ingress experience. We can craft an ultimate technology solution to improve ingress, but a lot of the congestion comes from confusion around bag policies, for instance. And there's tons of information that we have published in a lot of different places about bag policies, which differ ballpark to ballpark. And if you just used generative AI on its own, it might not give all of the nuanced responses that we think would be relevant, but it would afford an ability for someone to have a more conversation-based approach to finding out specific answers to specific questions that they have in a timely fashion. So that would be one example of a way in which the Ballpark app could leverage technology like that to also improve and expedite ingress by just giving people access to very pertinent and relevant information for them.
We've been using AI at Elevate to help clubs predict ticket yield, likelihood of attending, so we could reach out with very specific offers to make sure they're using their tickets, which in turn increases attendance and overall.
I think Chris may have frozen there for a second. Well, we'll move on. We'll come back to him if technological difficulties resolve themselves. I got another great question that came in. I love to hear what innovations have worked well, but I also love to hear the flops. What's an example of a game day experience in venue or broadcast that didn't go as planned?
Well, I think that's a tough one, but it's not actually a tough one. If you go back 2 years, we were living during the COVID era. We tried a lot of things, right? So we couldn't get fans to the ballpark, so we had look, how can digital help you, right? So sure. We launched products like, look, you can cheer for your team from your home with your app and everything, right? So those some features, and then we had cutouts of fans at the ballpark. So look, they were nice and novel, but those won't stick, right? So those are it was right for that moment, at least for some time at least, and then people got a little look. I'm kind of actually don't want to see cutouts. In the stands, I actually want to see real fans. And same thing, I don't want to just cheer on my app by clicking a button that looks like a clap button, right? So, at some point, I actually want to go cheer, right? So those are some examples of, obviously not that it failed, but it just was it was right for the moment for that particular point in time, but not for a longer duration. So
I've got an unpopular one. I'm going to say it. And by the way, I said I didn't like Chase Carpenter. Chase is not just one of the sharpest guys in sports. He's one of the sharpest guys in the United States of America. I think very highly of him. I had to really go overboard on that since I said that. So one thing that we tried, and a lot of people have tried, that this is going to be unpopular, like I said, it's mobile ordering. And mobile ordering is tough to execute well because of some of the operational challenges associated with it. Theoretically, you could do something like Starbucks does. Very difficult to execute that properly. So although we've seen it work to a degree, if you designed around it from the beginning, from the inception of your park, I think you'd have an easier time doing it. Traditional belly up, the way it works and the way you're having to staff and train people, it makes it very difficult to operate in a way that creates a benefit to people in a very tangible way, especially if you have limited concourse room like we do, limited number of points of sale. If you're trying to give up some of that real estate, it's more taxing when your stadium is full. So while you have a population that uses it and loves it, and it does create a benefit because of this asynchronous kind of ordering, they can do that and they get to skip a step. If they're still standing in line, it's kind of difficult. So these things, and Carrie can talk about this forever too, this is a system you have to construct. And if you don't construct the entire system correctly, it's not going to work the way you expect it. For us, I think that was a great lesson. When we go to do things like mobile ordering, we have to construct it we have to really back up and say, how does this system, how should it work? And really focus on the other parts of the system, not the technology that allows people to order, but how does that whole system interact to create a better experience? Carrie, what do you think about that? You can curse me if you like.
I think just going back to Ingress as an example, this is something that we learned. It's not about just sticking in a free flow security screening software hardware system. It's not about just putting in facial authentication. These discrete technologies on their own are not solving for the overall experience. You have to treat it as an end-to-end unit, and it's more about the flow through that entire system. And a huge part of that is the operationalization of it, but it's also the fan behavior. How does the fan perceive and interact with the entirety of the system? So I couldn't agree more.
That's exactly right.
Chris, to welcome you back. You cut off just as you were talking about some of the AI predictions of ticket yield. I just wanted to see if there was a final thought that you wanted to add there.
Yeah, Joe, it was an incredible point that would have just left everyone with their jaws dropped, but I can only say it once. No, Elevate's been using AI for a while, and there was a question about ticket yield, and that's incredibly important. AI can be used along with big data to help predict who's likely to go and who's likely not to go based on anything from Little League schedules to weather patterns. We can reach out to those consumers directly and say, hey, you can put your tickets on our secondary exchange. You could do some with your tickets. You could donate your tickets. It's improving yield for I think we have over 40 clients using that right now.
Mm-hmm. All on SeatGeek. Is correct. So, and Chris, to stick with you, it occurred to me recently that we've only had two, Atlanta being one of them, but two new ballparks in the last 10 years. We're at sort of this juncture of, teams looking to maybe build a new one, or at least, significant renovations. What are the key points that you advise, to make sure that they have the right infrastructure for all these premium experiences?
Well, number one, I don't think anybody will ever build a ballpark again without looking at Atlanta. And what they did at the Battery was absolutely game-changing in combining a mixed-use development with a ballpark. So in the case of the Battery, Truist Park essentially is what Sears used to be in the American Mall. It's an anchor tenant to a lifestyle center that's affects all of Atlanta, particularly in Cobb County, where they didn't have any Class A commercial real estate before that ballpark was developed. So every club is going to look at that. And now you're starting to provide an experience that's much greater than just game day. And as much as baseball plays, if you put those games on a calendar, that's only one of every 4 days. So you have to figure out what you're doing with the other three. And then on game day, how big can the experience get? In Atlanta, and Justin, correct me if I'm wrong, they had 100,000 people in the Battery during the World Series. That's 70,000 that are not going into the ballpark. And they all need part of that experience. So whether it was what the Rangers did in Texas, what the Royals are thinking about in Kansas City, what Atlanta did, it's diversity of product, more clubs, more opportunities to create different environments for different types of consumers. It's more access to things like players and being part of the game, being on the field suites, things like that. And concessions is still a big part of the experience.
Mm-hmm. Great. Well, we are approaching the hour, so we'll go to one final question. Each of you can have about a minute or so. We were hearing about all these products that are being rolled out now, but none of these happen overnight, of course. So clearly there's quite a bit of R&D that's going on. So if we're having this conversation next year, what are we most likely talking about? Or feel free to make the horizon a little bit longer if you think you have a better answer. But, let's think a couple of years in advance, what will we be talking about?
I can tell you what I hope we're talking about, but Vasant and Carrie can probably tell you what we will be talking about. Yeah, part of it's going to be the way people experience baseball from a media perspective. Once again, if we're a media company, how are you combining the physical and digital products more effectively? And we've been talking about that for a long time. That's not new. With the news with Sinclair and Bally, it creates an opportunity, at least for half the teams in baseball, to really define what we want our experience to be. And we have some runway there to figure that out. So in terms of the way the app works and the way people choose to watch baseball and experience baseball, we have a lot of optionality that's been created by circumstance. And what I hope we are able to do is really define that for ourselves in terms of where that goes.
Yeah, I would say the same thing. Look, marrying the physical and digital is going to be and how immersive and how unique an experience you can provide to consume content, which is baseball, is going to be the thing. But there are things that are changing really fast, and that is going to help us do really great at this. This is generative AI is one that's going to really make this much easier and bring a lot of the things that we thought was 5-6 years away to within a year or two. And the other one is metaverse and AR and VR stuff, which is like, look, every year it's getting better. And that those are things that are going to make the experiences much more unique and allows us, like Justin said, like in the league and at each of the clubs, like we want to control that experience for a fan. So it's got a lot of exciting things. I'm actually excited for the next 3-4 years, and we have laid a really good foundation and we have a really strong product now. But the next few years is going to be, I think things are going to accelerate at much faster rate with a lot of the technology advancements we're seeing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think one example of that phygital or physical digital convergence, we call it phygital, is this ingress experience that we've been researching for the last couple of years. So I think you'll see the fruits of that research come to fruition, and it won't necessarily be a one size fits all, because ballparks are very unique and the spaces around that ingress experience are unique, but making that a very seamless, intuitive experience will be something that'll be exciting to bring to life.
I hope you've trademarked Phygital. I actually hadn't heard that one yet. So. Chris, bring us home.
I hope we're talking about the reduction of regionality in baseball, the way people consume the game. I know that there's a lot of Manny Machado fans that don't live near me here in San Diego. The more we're seeing the personality of the players, and I think there's some huge opportunities I think there's an opportunity in the challenge with the RSNs to create a product that gives fans more access, and they can be fans of players and multiple teams at one time, fans of the game.
All right. Well, great. Well, thank you all, particularly to our panelists. If you have your MLB Business All-Star ballots already, make sure you click in one for Vasant, Justin, Carrie, and Chris. Thank you very much to the audience for being with us. Hopefully you'll come back for future episodes of SBJ Live. Thank you all, and enjoy opening day tomorrow.